Hello everyone. Today I am super excited to present the official Pettit Racing cold air intake kit for the FD Mazda RX-7. And I am super pumped up. If you own an RX-7, if you own an FD, you already know that it makes cool sounds from the factory. The rotary engine, the turbos, the way they spool up, you get a lot of audio stimulation. But I was wondering what happens if you put a cold air intake on an FD. Will you hear more of the turbo? Will it be better for it? And as I started getting more and more involved with the 13B, I realized that the airbox and the way that everything's designed, it's really crunched in that space. And whenever I went on Pettit Racing's website and I started to read about the benefits of this cold air intake, it made a lot of sense why this would work. As a matter of fact, this intake kit adapts to some of the changes that Mazda did later on. Now, this is one of the OG air intakes you could find out there. It comes with a very nice looking machine bracket. You have your air filters, you have your heat shield, you have some foam, you have instructions, but I really think we're gonna get some really cool sounds. So let me tell you a little bit about this cold air intake kit. It was first introduced in 1992, so that tells you that Pettit Racing has had decades to perfect it and approach it with the best possible way. So this kit comes with pretty much an intercooler cover delete, and what that does is that the original design allowed fresh air to go from the intercooler area to the air box, and now we're going to be blocking it off with this kit. And what that does, it increases the efficiency of the intercooler, which is really good. And the great thing about this cold air intake is that it's compatible with mostly all aftermarket intercooler kits that still use the stock mounting points. And you don't have to cut anything. There's no fabricating or moving things. This utilizes a lot of the OEM points, a lot of the mounts. This is also reversible. So I am super excited because what am I looking for in this kit? I'm looking for noise, but this is also going to add some intercooler efficiency, and it's also going to help with the induction, the cold air induction. So I am really pumped up. All right, let's get it installed. All right, the first thing you want to do is just make sure that you're working on a car that's not hot. Be careful, and let's get it ready to rock. All right, the first thing we're going to remove is this black component right here. We've got two 10mm bolts, so let's go ahead and take them out. All right, we're gonna start removing clamps from the airbox. Pretty straightforward. Just start moving those clamps back. This is the funky one right here. When I first got my car, I was like, what does this go to? Nothing. We'll pull that one out right now. And then the one that goes to the actual air cleaner, the air pump, you could either take it off from the top or take it off from the bottom. I like to do both sides just because. All right, we'll pull this one out. Okay, you're gonna have 3 more clamps. So you're gonna have one clamp right here. I took mine off already, off camera, but you're gonna see this clamp on your air box. And then you have one that connects to the blow-off valve. So I'm gonna pull that one's off. And then I have one more underneath this one. And what I like to do is I like to take this one off so I can get to the one underneath. All right, we're gonna get the bottom one. So we have 3 10mm bolts for the top box. You have one right here, one over there, one on the left. I'm gonna go ahead and take them off. And we're now gonna remove the top cover. And it comes off like that. I like to flip it over, and then we have our air filter, K&N air filter. And now we're gonna be removing this bottom box right here. So we have 1, 2, and 3. And now we're gonna remove the forwardmost bracket from the air box. It has 2 10mm bolts, and we're not gonna need that anymore. Your services are no longer required. Whoops. So this is one of the personal reasons why I started looking into this cold air intake kit, is if you look at this area, right, we have the fan, well, we have one of the fans, and everything in here is really tight. So whenever we had the stock air box, if you think of the way that things are cooled, the air is coming through the bumper and it's supposed to pretty much go through here. But with that air box and everything, it just kind of, you know, it isn't an efficient flow system in my opinion. And not only that, I believe this is what we're also going to be covering up right here. So the intercooler is just going to have like a nice direct flow of air. I really think the kit is very well engineered and all the approaches to solve things are very logical. All right, and I think these are the bushings that they're talking about. So we're going to remove these right here. I've been working on a lot of cars and these are kind of new to me. So, all right, these are off. All right, now we're going to get the foam in between the radiator and the body. Typically just glued on there. I got a piece off. All right, we're now going to install the heat shield, and the way you do it is that you have this kind of little tab right here, and there is a place where it's going to go on the actual fan shroud down there. So right here in the middle, right here, that's where we're going to try to attach that center tab. So let's go ahead and try it. It's definitely a tight fit, but I'm getting there. Boom, that actually slid in there. That was awesome. Check this out, guys. That slid in there perfectly. Isn't that cool? Talk about like thought in design. And it sits there really nicely and it's not pinching the coolant hose. So the instructions say that when you're installing a heat shield, just be careful in this area. Make sure that you don't pinch any wires and that you don't push them. If you do push any wires out of their way, to put them back where they were. All right, we're now gonna put our clamps on because we're getting ready to install our filters. And we're simply gonna get those set up like this. And then Elise and I were saying, how does this go? Well, it definitely can't go like that. So we're gonna put it like this. And with anything, I'm gonna start off really slowly. But so far, I am just so impressed with this kit, guys. I am like honestly blown away. All right, so the instructions say to go ahead and position the rear one first. And what I'm gonna do is I have an extension with an 8mm, and I am right about the size. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna position the filter. It's kind of a little tricky. You might have to do this a couple times. And then we're gonna start tightening it down, right? I'm not gonna go all the way down quite yet, but just enough to keep it in place. And then I'm gonna get my ratchet. All right, we're gonna tighten it down. You'll feel it. Boom, that's nice. I'm gonna check the ones that came with it. They just need a little bit of tightening down. And now we're gonna do the top one. But this is the part that you're gonna want to kind of adjust as you go, because when we put the hood down, we're gonna wanna make sure that we could put our hood latch and our hood prop down correctly. All right, this part's a little tricky. What I did was I was holding it and push it against it and then tightening it down. And that's what we did. We pretty much put some resistance on it because it stops about right here. The diameter of the OEM pipe gets a little smaller right here, and that's where the piping is gonna stop. And that's where we stopped. We're gonna tighten it down and check this one. And that looks good. All right, so we've got our hood prop, and I wanna show you what I was talking about. If you look right here, our hood prop, it sits in there. So we're not having any hood prop issues. It's actually working right with it. And that tells me that the kit is designed really well and that we're installing it correctly. All right, so we installed the hose to the air pump over there. And now we're gonna be putting on this foam. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna remove this 3M adhesive tape cover. And now we're going to be placing our foam. And the goal of the foam is to provide like a seal and separation between one side of the engine bay and the other. And this is going to pretty much keep our air filters and our cold air intake separate from the other side of the engine. It's going to just add that additional helping cooling effect. All right, so this is the cool part. You see this opening right here? This is our intercooler. We have a little block off plate, the IDC plate. And what we did is we added some adhesive tape down here. You could use some RTV and then you could use the screws. I had some really good adhesive tape. So what I did is I went back and I made a nice seal and I went ahead and pressed it down, and I think it's pretty good. So pretty much the main goal is you want to make sure that it's got an airtight seal. You get it, guys? Airtight. You could use the screws, you could use RTV and the screws, or if you have some really good adhesive, and if you want to use all three, you can. All right, guys, so we're out for a drive, and I can tell you, big difference already, huge difference. The biggest thing is you can hear the blow-off valve, which is really neat. You didn't hear that before, and of course everything is being vented to the atmosphere. All right, guys, so it really is unique. I would say the biggest sound you hear is the blow-off valve, which is cool. And another thing too is definitely you could feel like the turbos are just a little happier. All right, guys, we are back and we experienced a few things, and one of those things was a smile. All right, the sounds are crazy, and I think the engine is a little bit happier. But when we were driving, we started to hear like this growling sound. So we pulled over and I was like, what's going on? So I decided to give Cam a call and ask him, hey, what is this growling sound coming from? And he explained to me that it's the air pump. Before the air pump went into the air box, and of course whenever it was pumping in air whenever it's not working, you couldn't hear it because it was in the air box and it was insulated. But now since the pipe is kind of venting the atmosphere, you could hear that. So when it comes to the air pump noise, just don't be scared. There's not a critter in your engine bay, but just know that that's the air pump. So the air pump comes on at idle, and also it comes on at light acceleration. And the thing about it, it's an emissions thing. So if you have catalytic converters, you're most likely going to need it. If you don't, you probably want to get with Cam and talk about different options. He has a air pump delete kit. Also, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the negative terminal on my battery. And I'm going to leave it like that overnight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reconnect it, and I'm just going to reset the ECU because I think we're adding some more air. I think we made some changes, and we want the ECU to kind of relearn. Just to recap, what do I think about it? The blow-off sounds are insane. That alone adds to the experience. As far as the suction sound goes, I think it's about maybe 10-15% more, but with the combination of blow-off valve, it's definitely a big difference. Well, guys, if you want to get one of these kits, go to the description. In our video, you'll see a link. We're really excited. This was awesome to do. We appreciate you watching the video. You stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.